YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more 2019 NFL record predictions, going through every single team, but this video is for my Minnesota Vikings. So we're going to break down game by game in depth here, and then I kind of like, at this point of the video, really quick in the beginning, to break down my thoughts on the team. Well, the Vikings are one of those teams. I like to compare them to what happened with the Jags and the Falcons. Three teams that we thought were contenders and really struggled last year. And I think some people are kind of doubting all those teams that they can't get back. And I think this is one of the teams that can get back. Looking at the roster, it's the same roster plus some, obviously. And just a year ago, it was only a year ago at this time, that we thought this could be maybe the favorites to win the Super Bowl. So I think it's realistic they can get back. I'm not saying they win the Super Bowl, but I think they can get back and be a very solid team. It's really on that offensive line, but I like adding Kubiak, the coaching stats. I think the offensive line being better makes Kirk better. I think adding a guy like Irv Smith for multiple spots, really, he's a tight end, an H-back slot, really a slot tight end / receiver because of his athleticism. I think that's big time. The offensive line is going to be totally different. Really, the tackles probably will be the same, but Brian O'Neill will be a little better. But everything else, guard through center, will be different with a different scheme, going from a gap scheme to an outside zone scheme, which is much easier. So I think the offensive line will improve. I think that helps Dalvin Cook if healthy. The defense, I expect the defense to be good. I don't know what was going on early last year, and they were trying some stuff out, but I think the defense should be very solid. A guy that I'm looking forward to stepping up possibly is Jalen Holmes, who they drafted last year. So I don't think it'll be that big of a loss losing Sheldon Richardson. So I think it's a complete team. That's how I view it. We'll see how it goes game by game. Tough schedule. Subscriber goals at 20K. You should subscribe to the channel because we got daily sports content, not just NFL, even though we specialize in the NFL and cover it all year. We got other sports. We're covering the NBA draft. Check out our Twitter for updates, answer questions, and we have polls on there for you guys to vote on. Link in the description for that. Clicking the like button, much appreciated as well. Let's get on to the Vikings schedule. I compared them to the Falcons last year, a team that we thought would be very good, just like the Vikings, but injuries and other reasons kind of made them a little disappointing. But I definitely think they can get back, and that's who they play in Week 1. That's a good game there. I think really, weird things happen in Week 1 every year, and it surprises everyone. It shouldn't really surprise us anymore. But I don't think anything weird can come out of this game. I think either team winning really isn't a surprise. I think the difference here is the Vikings being at home. US Bank is such a tough place to play, one of the better home field advantages. So I do like the Vikings at home there. That'll be a good game. We've seen in the past the Falcons offense struggle with the Vikings defense, so we'll see. Maybe their offensive line revamp has fixed that, but both teams that needed O-line revamps. Vikings at Packers, same game as last year. The Vikings had this one in overtime, couldn't quite get it. They could get this one, but I'm kind of leaning towards the Packers at home here. A healthy Packers in Week 2. You wish you play the Packers twice a little later when maybe they're beat up like last year, but that's not how it works here. So I like the healthy Packers at home in Week 2. Week 3, Raiders at Vikings. I like the Vikings. Much better team. They're at home. The Raiders offense could be sneaky, though. And then you got the Vikings at the Bears. Bears at Soldier. Got to pick them. So we won all the home teams so far. They started off 2-2. I do like the Vikings getting a away game here. The Giants should struggle. I think they're going to struggle big time this year. I think the Vikings should win this game. There's no reason why they shouldn't. The Eagles at the Vikings. This is kind of somewhat of a rival game now, and the Vikings finally get a home game against them. This is another good game, too. I like the difference here is the home field advantage. I think the Vikings win this one at home against the Eagles. I think if it was in Philly, maybe I'd be picking the Eagles, so it's that close of a game. The difference is the home field advantage. The Vikings-Lions, another tough one. The Vikings got the Lions twice last year. They got good pressure every time. So that could happen again. These games seem to be close, though, either way. The Lions got better this year. It's a toss-up, but I'll take the Lions. I think they get one, and they can definitely compete in this division. They definitely got better. Redskins-Vikings Thursday night. I usually love picking the home teams, especially on the primetime games, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. They seem to win most of the time. Vikings do struggle on prime time, so that's what makes this thing interesting, and it's a Kirk Cousins revenge game. But I do think Cousins gets his revenge here. I think he plays lights out, kind of a gut feeling of mine. And then week 9 is a very tough one. They got to go to Kansas City. The Vikings defense is very solid. It could be back to the best. It was up there, wasn't quite the best. It could be back, but they haven't really seen anything like this Chiefs offense. They struggled with the Rams offense last year. So this is definitely a tough challenge. Definitely a tough challenge. I'm going to take the Chiefs here. Too much offense. Then there's a Sunday night game against the Cowboys, kind of going back to the Vikings kind of blowing primetime games. This is a primetime game, and it's in Dallas. I honestly think you look at both these teams, they're very, very complete. I almost think the Vikings are a little better, but being in Dallas on primetime, I take the Cowboys. The Vikings will be home against the Broncos. I think a low-scoring game in this one, but I do like the Vikings. Bye week. It's a good time for the bye week here before the Seattle game. They always play Seattle. Always seems to be in Seattle, and it's Monday night. Last year around this time, we seen the similar game, and it was a disaster for the Vikings. Offensively, the blocking and just couldn't get anything going. The play calling was at its worst in this game, and they still were in the game until the end, until the bad call about that Bobby Wagner who had a ridiculous game that game, but jumping over the offense lineman blocking a field goal. So the Vikings were still in the game despite the disaster. I think the Seahawks kind of went another step towards that rebuild mode almost, and I think the Vikings got better. So I think the Vikings win this one, and I don't think they get swept by the Lions. They'll win that game. Vikings at Chargers. This will be a hell of a game. I think this would be a heck of a game. Can't wait for that one. I think two complete teams. The Chargers might be the most complete team in football. I'll take the Chargers at home. Home field advantage, once again, is the difference. And then Monday night, home against the Packers. Prime time, but they're home. I like them beating the Packers at home here. I think they're a more complete team. And then week 17, home against the Bears. This is the same game as last year, which the Vikings needed to win to get into playoffs, and they struggled big time. But I think the Vikings, I think the Bears stay about the same. Young guys getting better, but they lose their coach. I don't know if they're going to get as many turnovers. They're still a really good team. So the Bears stay about the same. I really think the Vikings get better. There's no reason why they shouldn't get better with the right coaching staff, the right offensive line. Kirk Cousins' second year, it's tough doing that in your first year. So the Vikings, and they should win this game. So 10-6 is where I have them. I think it's about right. They're very good at home. They could struggle away. So even though 8-0 at home, it's tough to do, but there's a few teams in the league that definitely can do it. I think the Vikings are one of them because they got a big-time home field advantage at U.S. Bank, and they do struggle away sometimes. But kind of going back and looking, a lot of these games can go either way. The Falcons game could go either way week 1, which I had the Vikings winning, but I do think they can beat the Packers in week 2. They could 2-0 the Lions like last year as well. I don't think they beat the Chiefs there. They can beat the Cowboys, though, so they could lose to the Seahawks there. So it's kind of back and forth. Some of these games they actually could win that I am losing. So I think they have a range. It's really, to be honest, it's pretty pathetic if they can't win 9 games, more than 9 games. 9 games or more, really, because this team is built to win the Super Bowl. That's how it's built. I guess it depends on the offensive line plays, but easier scheme, right coaching staff. They didn't even have an offensive line coach last year, so that's one thing. So they should win in the range of 9 to 12 games, I think. I really think they should. So I have them at around 10. We'll see. Tough opponents here, as does the whole NFC North. They all have that, obviously. But 10-6 is where I got them. And a few more teams to get through in the NFC North and kind of going back and forth. AFC South will be next, then NFC South back and forth till we're through all teams. And then we'll predict the playoffs, the Super Bowl. We got some live streams coming up. We're going to cover the NBA draft. Plenty of content to come. There's some playlists on the left side of your screen. Go ahead and check those out if you haven't seen any of those videos within those playlists. Click that subscribe button. Much appreciated if you do so. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.